I'm Owen from the English Folk Dance and Song Society, and I'm here with Isabel Greenberg, an award-winning writer and illustrator. So, Isabel, let's start off with the headline. Tell us about your new project.
I've been working on a short comic and exhibition here at Cecil Sharp House. They let me use the library, and I found some really great folk ballads and stories, and I picked one that I've written into sort of adapted comic, and the artwork from the comic will be displayed here at Cecil Sharp House.
Which ballad was it?
The Two Sisters.
And what stuck out to you about that particular song?
Well, there were various variations, but my favourite one was, I don't want to spoil the ending. Okay, I'll spoil the ending.
You don't have to.
I think I liked the ballads a lot. I thought they were very dark and strange and stormy, I think, and I found that very appealing. I liked this story in particular because it was about two sisters, and I have a sister, and although I don't have any murderous intentions towards my sister, I think there's a sort of truth in the ballads that is very interesting and relevant even today. I'm not going to murder my sister, just to clarify that. But I think that sort of emotions like jealousy and lust and treachery and things like that are very timeless, and that's what's appealing about the ballads, I think.
We've got a short comic coming out based on that. What can we expect to see in the exhibition? Is that sort of panels from the comic, or?
Yeah, so the exhibition is going to be a series of blown up panels from the comic, as well as some 3D sort of diorama boxes I made, and some painted ceramic plates, and a couple of other prints and things like that. So most of it's really directly influenced by the reading and stuff I discovered here.
So let's go back a bit.
Okay.
Talk about you.
Okay.
So how did you get into the whole graphic novel comic area of art?
I studied illustration at university. I think before that I was always interested in writing and in drawing, so it's a kind of obvious meeting of the two. And I think I've been quite lucky to arrive in a sort of illustration comics world at a time where it's becoming a lot more sort of popular, and there's a lot more kind of arty, kind of more illustration-y, painting-ish comics out there, rather than the more traditional kind or whatever. So I've been quite lucky in that respect, and that's I came into comics that way, really, as a means of telling stories, I think, rather than because I particularly love comics, although I do love comics, but I think it just seemed like a really great way to tell a story.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean.
So on your Tumblr page a couple of months ago, you spoke about your process.
Yeah.
And said how you spent more time sort of writing than with the drawing.
Yeah.
So
that's probably true.
Have you ever considered just writing a novel or something without the drawing, or for you is it kind of two sides of the same coin?
I've started at things like that before, and I've written short stories, but then actually I always get about halfway through and start visualising the pictures anyway. So I think at the moment I'm happy just doing the stories and the pictures, but maybe one day I'd write, but I'm not sure. I like drawing too much at the moment, I think.
Your short comic, Love in a Very Cold Climate, won an award. What was your inspiration for that?
I can't remember at all where the idea came from. Maybe I dreamt it, I don't know. Because I just remember having the idea and telling someone, oh, I had this really funny idea, but I can't remember where it came from. I was probably watching a lot of Frozen Planet at the time or something like that. But I'm not sure, I don't know where it came from.
It's probably where the best ideas come from.
Yeah. Well, most of my ideas do come from, I take a lot from history or from existing folk stories or mythology and things like that. Weirdly, that story, I'm not sure where I got it from. Whereas most of my other stories, I can say, oh, that's an adaptation of such and such. But yeah, I'm really actually not sure where that one came from.
Okay.
Came to me in a dream.
Do you find that short stories are quite quite a different way of writing to a novel. So I found with that particular story, you managed to pack in a lot that people don't even manage to do in a whole novel sometimes. I mean, I find it a genuinely beautiful and witty and heartbreaking, all in those 4 pages. Do you find writing short stories in some ways easier or more difficult, or just different to writing something longer?
I like writing sort of small, self-contained. So the whole book that then subsequently ended up being part of is a series of interlinking short stories, and likewise the new book I'm working on is also smaller stories that interlink. And I think I prefer working that way, but I'm not sure. I find it easier, but I don't know if that's a universal thing or not. I certainly find it easier.
So as you mentioned, that story then grew into the Encyclopedia of the Earth. In that book you use a lot of sort of existing folklore and stories which you've kind of rewritten for your own ends. Where did that interest in folklore come from?
Well, I think I obviously read a lot as a kid, and I still read a lot, and I think that early interest in books and history and that my parents obviously gave to me was definitely something that stayed with me. In the encyclopedia I used a lot more kind of Greek and Norse mythology and like Old Testament stories as well, whereas the new book I'm working on, I think I've actually used a lot of stuff from the research I did here for the short comics, so that's been carried over into my bigger project, which is exciting. But I think I love stories, and the nice thing about folklore and mythology is that they are, I guess even if they were written a very long time ago, generally the themes are quite timeless, and they're things that you can relate to that sort of transcend whether or not the character is holding an iPod or a scimitar.
I loved in that book was you very much created an entire world sort of in your head, and I know a lot of authors have done that. People like J.R.R. Tolkien have very clearly got this whole world in their minds, but I think what was different about yours was that, particularly with the folklore and the stories, it seemed very much more about you were interested in the people rather than so much the kind of the actual factual aspects of the earth. Would you say that's the case, that you're kind of more...
Yeah, I like the people. I mean, I think I don't really quite have the... When I look at the world building that people like J.R.R. Tolkien do, like, it's amazing, but I don't think I have the consistency. I think I'd forget. I mean, I know I do this. If I invented some sort of geographical thing that I had to stick to, I'd probably like forget about it and then just completely ruin my own plot with inconsistencies. So I try to mainly focus on the things like the people, I suppose. But I like being in charge. If you put it in your own world, you don't have to conform to any sort of, to anything. You can do what you like. Obviously there has to be some basic kind of gravity probably still has to exist really, and stuff like that. Although I think I could probably get around that if I wanted to. It's nice being in charge. Like, you can just do what you like in your world, which is quite fun, I think.
Do you take influence from any other art forms? Is there any particular music that you would kind of associate with your work?
Well, I should probably say folk music, really, shouldn't I?
So I wonder sometimes when you read something, if there's like a film soundtrack going in the back of your mind. I've never thought about it too much. But.
No, I don't tend to put a soundtrack to my work, really. But I wouldn't say that my work is really influenced by music, but obviously it's the stories that influence me. So when I was researching here, I wasn't really listening. I listened to some of the songs after I found the stories that I liked, but it's the words, I think, that I find more of an influence than the music. But that's also just another added level of niceness, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
When this exhibition's all over, what's next for you?
I'm working on a new graphic novel, which is another set in the same world, but a bit darker, and there's going to be more sort of strange happenings. The story that is going to be in the comic here will probably feature in that book along with some others, and so there are going to be a lot more. Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit darker than the first book, and influences are probably more English rather than Norse or biblical, but I think it's going to be fun. That'll not be out for a couple of years though. I'm still working on it.